So if there are not any questions, as usual, we should start with questions. Any of you have questions?
Yes, Pastor.
Yes, of course. Agu, if you don't have questions, the whole team is going to collapse.
Yes, Pastor. Pastor, I would like to know, in this context or in our text, where is the Pabbasaracita place in this context, Pastor?
So every tradition, in a way, has a different interpretation of Pabbasara Chittam. Every tradition has agrees that it is the words of the Buddha, that the mind is luminous and that the defilements are not real, are guests to the mind. But it is interpreted in a very different way. In Theravada, the Pabbhasara Chitta is Bhavanga. The Bhavanga is the Pabbhasara Chitta, the illumined mind. It is an illumined mind because it illumines our past experiences. It illumines our perception of the past, on which, whether we like it or not, our judgments are based. Our judgments is based on our experience in the past. And when we pay attention to something, whether we like it or not, already some influence of our past experience is coming. That's why we need pragya paramita. We need the conqueror. Pragya paramita we have learned in this course. They translate into Tibetan as a conqueror. Bhagavati pragya paramita. This is very special. It conquers our ignorance. It conquers our ignorance in what sense? Now, in the great Pragya Paramita Sutra, the Venerable Shariputra discusses with Venerable Subhuti, who has authorization to teach the Pragya Paramita, the ultimate wisdom, non-dualistic wisdom. And the Venerable Sariputra asked, what is the ultimate wisdom? And the Subhuti answers, the ultimate wisdom is viveka, is isolation. The five aggregates are isolated, therefore you cannot grasp them. The I is isolated, therefore you cannot grasp it. The forms are isolated, therefore you cannot grasp them. The mind is isolated, therefore you cannot grasp it. The thoughts are isolated, therefore you cannot grasp them. And that is pragya paramita, according to Subhuti. And Subhuti has authorization of Buddha to teach pragya paramita, just like Avalokiteshvara has authorization from Buddha to teach the pragya paramita in Poja Shinching, in pragya paramita Hridaya Sutra. So actually this is based on what Buddha understood in the samadhi of wisdom. In the samadhi of wisdom, everything is isolated because you cannot grasp it. And what is everything? The nirvana is everything. The samsaric existence is everything. When things are isolated, they become everything. That's why the Pragya Paramita, the ultimate wisdom, is called the super wisdom, the wisdom of everything, leading to the omniscience of the Buddha, which is omniscience in all aspects. Omniscience of the Arahat, Buddha is also Arahat, is called omniscience in Pali, but the omniscience of the Buddha is Sarva Akara, Sarvagyata. It is omniscience in all aspects. So to get the omniscience in all aspects, no matter whether you are an Arahat or you are a Bodhisattva or you are a non-Buddhist, what you need is to realize something which contains everything and which you cannot measure. If you can measure it, then there is exclusion. And if there is exclusion, it's not a perfect wisdom. This is very important for us to understand. The practice of paramis are supposed to lead to the perfect state, the state beyond, based on the perfect wisdom, the wisdom that nothing can be grasped. This wisdom that nothing can be grasped, according to the teachers of Mahayana, is enabling you to realize the truth of dependent origination, which is Buddhism, much faster. Why? Because you give rise to bodhicitta. The practice of bodhisattva is bodhicitta, which means the bodhi mind, not ordinary mind, the bodhi mind. Now, according to the, as Agus has asked, according to the Mahayana tradition, this this ungraspable mind, the true mind, which is beyond arising and passing away, but also not excludes arising and passing away. We have learned that there are two aspects of mind existing in alaya. What we can experience is alaya, because Buddha's mind is non-excluding. Our mind is still excluding, so we are in alaya. We are still bound to our differentiation. That mind bound to differentiation is a worldly mind. But this mind bound to differentiation cannot exist separate from the mind which is not bound to differentiation and which illumines everything. And that mind is all exclusive. When you understand that mind, when you have realized bodhicitta, to realize bodhicitta is to realize faith in bodhicitta. Because still, even when we realize bodhicitta, we still are inclined to dualistic thinking. That is a very, very deep habit. But when we realize bodhicitta, we realize something which will make the practice of pure mind. In order to attain liberation, we have to realize pure mind. But when we realize this pure mind is our nature of all beings, the practice becomes much easier and much faster, because it includes a dimension beyond measure and beyond time. And this, paradoxically, this dimension beyond measure, beyond time, exists also in time. But it is ungraspable for us unless we have realized our faith. So the most important part of the bodhisattva practice is to realize the faith, to realize bodhicitta. When you have realized the bodhicitta, you are sure to become a Buddha, the perfect Buddha. That means the Buddha who has the omniscience in all aspects of knowledge. Because his mind dwells in the light of perfect cognition, which does not need any object in particular. And at the same time, it reflects the objects of this perfect condition just as they are. To reflect objects just as they are, this is a state of tathata, Genru. Chinese, they translate Genru, the real that. There is no other that. When you have realized bodhicitta, you know the real that. It is just that, can't be otherwise. So everything becomes true. To become true means, according to Pragya Paramita, to be isolated. And to be isolated means be beyond measure. What is isolated, you cannot measure. Like a zero is isolated, so you cannot hold it from left, you cannot hold it from right, you cannot hold it from under, you cannot hold it from above, but it is still there. That's why this Pragya Paramita, the ultimate wisdom, is based on emptiness, which is called zero. In Sanskrit, emptiness means the state of zero. Shunyata. Now, whether we like it or not, we are in this state of zero. We are in something that is ourself, but that self does not exist. But we still reflect things through the eye of the self, even when we become enlightened. And it's worthwhile to make an effort. We still have these remnants, very significant ones, of holding to our differentiation. This is the nature of our mind. This is the nature of samsara, that through the differentiation, we experience touch. When we experience touch, we experience sensation. When we experience sensation, we experience samsara because we hold to sensations. When we don't hold to sensation, we don't experience samsara. And when we don't hold to sensations, the Theravada also has the same idea. The Khema Sutta explain the sensations of the Buddha. You cannot grasp, no way to grasp the sensations of the Buddha. Our sensations we can grasp. So, because we can grasp our sensations, then we know that our omniscience is not yet there. But this potential for omniscience has always been there. And this potential of omniscience is a clear mind, is the nirvana mind. And this mind is the nature of the mind. This is what the sutras of the non-dualistic wisdom teach. Normally in Buddhism, nirvana is never interpreted as a mind. But it is said in Theravada, in all teachings, that everything is contained in the mind. But nirvana is not interpreted as a mind. Then, since everything is included in the mind, so everything includes that which has been created, the Samskrita, the Yahweh, and it includes also that which has not been created, the Wu-Wei, Nirvana. And which Wu-Wei, according to Pragya Paramita, this Wu-Wei, which is a natural state of beings, which you cannot achieve. So the practice of Bodhisattva is the explained, is non-attainment, non-attaining. Buddha, tell what? Everything. Not attain everything is the state of Buddha. Just reflecting everything as it is without holding. That is suchness. The suchness is then becomes the true state of Buddha. In suchness, it is said that the kleshas, our holding to sensations, which gives them the pollution, is body, and body is kleshas. Fan now, choose body, body, choose fan now. This is one of the first things you learn when you study Zen. But how? This is ridiculous. The kleshas are not body, but they are body from the point of view of the ultimate wisdom. And this is the object of the faith, the ultimate wisdom, which leads to knowledge in all aspects. The knowledge in all aspects knows all the, understands all the differentiations, but does not hold to any differentiation. It reflects these differentiations as they are, but does not hold to any differentiation. We grasp through thinking by differentiating. But the thinking does not interpret the reality as it is. The thinking interpret the reality completely subjectively, not objectively. If you want to have an objective wisdom, you have to go beyond thinking. So this ultimate wisdom is beyond thinking, beyond grasping, beyond words, beyond measures. And that is wonderful. Meow. And that meow is identified with the Buddha. In order to understand our text, let us then go to our text. Now the time is over. So in our text, in order to realize the bodhicitta, not realize directly, but realize by faith. First, we have to realize by faith because we are still talking about differentiation. But correct differentiation, which leads to the correct enlightenment, the ultimate enlightenment. According to Lotus Sutra, the enlightenment based on correct differentiation is still only skillful means to true enlightenment, which is beyond differentiation. So when we want to understand the world, we have to understand the world from the point of view of Buddha, which is beyond differentiation. Yet, in reflecting differentiation as it is, so Buddha has unthinkable, as we have learned, unthinkable means of the of action, of karma, and has the unthinkable purity of wisdom. We have learned that before, these two aspects of body, which are, according to the non-dualistic philosophy, which are natural to us beings. But the problem with us beings, we are very obstinate in not understanding the natural. This is the first thing you learn when you learn Zen with a good teacher. We want to be natural, but we can't because we don't understand the natural. We don't understand the bodhicitta. Bodhicitta is not natural to us. So the primary task and actually the base of everything, if you want to realize nirvana, your true base is entering into the stream. Now, entering into the stream to become a Buddha is the realizing of the faith in bodhicitta. Realizing of the faith in your enlightened mind being the real essence of whatever you experience. That's all we have learned. Now we have come to the last chapter of, well, not last, the one before last, but the last chapter is just a kind of transference of merit. So this last chapter, after explanation, which is the most important chapter, the wisdom or awareness, samprajanya, means that we have heard properly, we have contemplated on what we have heard properly, and we can use samadhi to digest what we have correctly understood. So the previous chapter explanation and the essence has explained what we have to understand in order to practice correctly, to realize the faith. If we have digested this explanation part and this essence part, then we should know correctly how to practice faith. But we have not yet realized faith. The realization of the faith in the traditional step-by-step order. The Buddhism is taught either in step-by-step order or it is taught moment by moment order. Both orders, they complementary. Because you have the Buddha mind, everybody has. You don't need to look for it. It is there. Only due to our perversion, due to our ignorance, we don't see it. Because we don't see it, we have to realize the faith in it to be able to see it. The faith literally means, even in the Pali explanation, okapana, we have to go down. O means ava, to go down, with the object of our contemplation, with the object of our wisdom from contemplation, chintamaya panya. So 成智慧. We have 闻所成智慧, 思所成智慧, 定所成智慧. In order to practice 定所成智慧, the wisdom based on samadhi, which enables you direct experience of the object without intermediary of thought. You need the wisdom of correct contemplation based on correct hearing. So in our text, the correct hearing was after the worshipping the triple gem. He explained the essence, this big essence, big character attributes of essence, and big use of the essence. The essence is nothing else but the one mind. One mind is Buddha's mind. And this Buddha's mind in this tradition is the mind of all beings. Only the difference is with us it is covered by ignorance. With Buddha, this ignorance came to an end. So he is in the beginning of the true state. We have learned that. We are trying to go back to the beginning, so we are practicing. This is the non-dualistic approach. We want to go back to the beginning, but this beginning is always there. We can never lose it. Even if we have defilements, this beginning is always there, because everything comes from this beginning, which is called zero, emptiness, because there is nothing to hold. But just like zero, it is there, but if you hold it, you become frustrated. So we have learned that in order to realize the faith, for us who are not yet determined for perfect Buddhahood, because we still hold to our differentiation and we don't dwell in bodhicitta. Most of us are like that. So we have to do what? This part explains. We have to have 4 kinds of faith. We have explained the last time. We have to face in the root. The root is suchness. And suchness is the state of Buddha. We have to understand, have the faith in the Buddha. The Buddha here means, as we have learned, all qualities. All good qualities are the Buddha. As Sandhi Nirmochana Sutra explained, the good qualities of the disciples, the good qualities of the bodhisattvas, whatever quality, good quality is there, it is the belongs to Buddha. Because the Buddha is, as the Pragya Paramita says, from all that I have seen, wo so yi jian, shi jian, wu zhu fo zhi. In the world, there is nothing from what I have seen, there is nothing like the Buddha. Why there is nothing like the Buddha? Because he contains all the qualities. Now the Dharma is explained, as we have learned, as that skillful means to attain all these qualities of the Buddha, which are called the perfections, paramis. 5 paramis, because in this practice of contemplation, the suchness, the shamatha and vipassana come together. Because we remember the true mind. The true mind does not arise, does not pass away. It is pure awareness. So the Dharma, real Dharma, means the practice of the perfections which brings us on the threshold of Buddhahood. Then the Sangha is those who practice these perfections, no matter whether they are Buddhist, non-Buddhist, whether they are the Shravakas, disciples, or the Bodhisattvas. All these are only names. And because we have not wisdom, we don't grasp at reality, we grasp at the image of reality, which we fix by names. This is also Pragya Paramita explains. You don't need necessarily to take the Yogacara view. This is even whether the mind exists or not exists, that's another matter. But what we grasp is just names, is just our concepts, not the reality. The reality does not need any names, but we grasp at the names, therefore our reality is subjective. So our reality, if we believe that it is there, we have to investigate it. When we investigate it according to the great wisdom beyond the measures, then we will see it is illusionary, because the true reality does not need our concepts. It is just the real that. Now, first, in order to realize it, we first have to believe in it. And if we don't yet believe in it completely, as the text says, we belong to the non-determined group. We can still be turned away from the true practice, which is non-dualistic. Once we have realized the dwelling in bodhicitta, which is the second stage, first faith in bodhicitta, then dwelling in bodhicitta, then we will realize conduct according to bodhicitta, then we will not practice for ourselves, we will practice for all beings, and then we can directly realize the bodhisattva realization, so that the joy of being, living in truth, does not leave us. This is a state of real realized bodhisattva. Then what remains is to perfect this state of joy in true reality to become true Buddha. Now, first step is to realize the faith in the bodhicitta. The faith in bodhicitta we realize by these four kinds of faith. Faith in suchness, which is a root. Faith in Buddha, which has all virtues, because all virtues belong to suchness, not to individuals, as the Daimon Sutra teaches. Then the skillful means, the practice of perfections, and the company of friends who have similar aspiration. So we can get there, we can realize our faith. If we exclude it from this, then we won't realize the faith. It will be very difficult. Each and every item of that is very important. the faith in the root, faith in the Buddha, which real Buddha contains all virtues, which is a true realization of selflessness, which has no in and no out. And the skillful means for that, the Dharma, and the company of friends who practice with the same aspiration. So even if they are the disciples and so on, ultimately they practice for the same realization, because reality, as Lotus Sutra says, is only one. There are not two realities. So that has been explained, and now we come to the explanation of the paramis, the 5 paramis. So we had the faith is of 4 kinds. Which 4 kinds? The faith in the root, that is joy in remembering the suchness. Then the faith in the Buddha, in his unlimited, measureless virtues, and the worship and Pungyang, offer the offerings to Buddha, and then practice the skillful means, and be in that means practice paramis, benefiting not only oneself but also others equally. Now, the practice of bodhi, or practice which helps body. Without that practice, we will not understand body. We will not understand that in a true body, the defilements are not real defilements. For us, defilements are still real defilements, but in a body, mind, the defilements are not defilements, because a true body mind is immeasureless. Defilements is what gives measure. But this reality is immeasurable. What gives measure is the defilements. So we are limited by our defilements and by our ignorance, which is the root of all defilements. And here, ignorance is, in a non-dualistic approach, is also ignorance that the subject and object don't exist in reality. They are created by defilements, by karma. We have learned all that. So because we dwell in our karma, we see this subject and object as being something real. So not to see it, we have to practice these 4 kinds of faith and 5 kinds of the assisting practices, which leads us to realization of the faith, which are the 5 paramis, 5 perfections. Then, if we practice the 5 perfections and the 4 kinds of faith, we are bound to realize our faith. This realization of the faith is the most important task and also most difficult task. When we have realized the faith, actually the practice becomes easier and easier. But to realize the faith is a hard job. Why it is a hard job? Because this non-believing in our Buddha nature is such a deep thing in us, that it accompanies, so to say, each and every of our thinking process, with which we identify and which give limits to our mind. We have learned all that. So we have to be aware. This is the practice of a bodhisattva, to be aware of the bodhicitta moment by moment. This is the practice of awareness. The practice of awareness in the discipline of the Shravakas, which is a base for all disciplines, is the awareness of the body, mindfulness of the body is not self, not belonging to the self, mindfulness of the sensations, not self, not belonging to the self, of the mind differentiating, not self, not belonging to the self, and of all the dharmas which we experience through the mind as not self, not being the self. So this is the perfect practice. There is no better practice than that. But that practice is only in the non-dualistic approach. It is only a preliminary to remembering the true state of things in which the divisions don't hold. They are there, but they don't hold. They don't hold in the perfection of wisdom, because the perfection of wisdom is unlimited. The unlimited does not accept limitations, but unlimited is aware of limitations, but do not accept limitations. This is difficult to understand. It is aware of limitations, but does not accept limitations. Why? Because we have learned the ignorance can only exist in relation to wisdom, and wisdom can only exist in relation to ignorance. When we understand that, we can enter into the process of liberation, which this text calls, and also in Zen tradition, going back to the beginning. In the beginning, everything was wonderful. Now, the things are not so wonderful because of our limitations. But the Pragya Paramita Sutras explain Mao Zhe Yo Miao Te Wu Miao. The wonderful which you can attain ceases to be wonderful. the, the wonderful which you can attain ceases to be wonderful. When we realize it, we know something of the bodhicitta being a natural state. We always want to attain something, but the real wonderful is non-attainment. But non-attainment, first we have to understand by hearing properly, then we have to understand by contemplating on it properly, what we have heard, that we and Buddha are not different. And only then we can practice the Surangama Samadhi, very important Surangama Sutra in Lenyenjing. The Surangama Samadhi, the Samadhi of the heroes, is the Samadhi here in our text. It is called I Shing Sanmei, Samadhi of one action. And this one action is watch over the root. Don't lose it. So this is Shing, one samskara, one action. Don't lose the root. When we lose the root, we are lost in the labyrinth of the world, in the labyrinth of our thoughts. So we have to think to live, otherwise we cannot live. But in thinking, we should not lose the root. Then we are practicing the perfection of wisdom. We are practicing perfection of wisdom based on bodhicitta, on the mind of enlightenment. So they are 5 paramis. If we want to help, assist our bodhicitta to succeed, we have to practice 5 paramis here. Actually, there are many different explanations, also 10 paramis, many paramis, but 5 paramis most important. We know them, dana, shila, kshanti, the shi, push, tashi, the jie, the ren, kshanti, the forbearance, and the virya, the jin, jing, and the shamatha vipassana, zhiguan. So these are the 5 paramis which will assist us to realize our faith in bodhicitta and to dwell in bodhicitta. When we dwell in bodhicitta, then we can have some deep understanding why the great teachers teach that the defilements are body and the body and defilements, they cannot be separated. So why? Because everything that exists only in relation. Nothing exists by itself. So we want to get the wisdom, no other way than to understand the ignorance. That's why the Buddha explains dependent origination, starting with ignorance. But ignorance has its causes, these perversions in our thinking, due to which we hold to that which is our individual as being objective. And due to this, so much suffering in the world. So now, explanation of these paramis. To understand what a parami is, I have taken some notes from the Yiche Shatilun. Yiche Shatilun has a very wonderful explanations. For parami, to become a parami, it says, it has to have 9 aspects. We don't speak in detail in each and every parami in terms of these 9 aspects, but the Yogacara Bhumi Shastra, Yiche Shatilun does. And they are very well explained. So the first aspect is the own nature of the paramis, Zixiang. Nothing has a own nature, but we explain things in terms of own nature. Because we are dependent on the words. Even the Buddha, when he explains, he is dependent on the concepts. Because we beings, we are clinging to concepts, not to reality. To reality, we cannot cling. So these concepts, they are true in the worldly reality, in the conventional reality. And when we open the mouth, we only can speak of conventional reality. We cannot speak of that which is beyond words, beyond understanding by communication. So the what is the true nature of the paramis? In order to realize nirvana, we have to practice inner science, which is called adhyatmika vidya. Vidya means science, avidya means non-science. We are in non-science because we don't have the inner science. The inner science means go beyond perversions of the mind, not see permanence in impermanence, not see bliss in that which is impermanent, not see self in that which is not bliss and not uh, uh, impermanent, and to see purity in that which is not pure by definition because it decays. The nirvana does not decay. But now we are talking about the non-dualistic approach. A non-dualistic approach to practice the perfections, which means literally go beyond. We not only need the uh, inner science, we also need the outer science in order to convince the beings to uh, uh, leave the suffering which is due to grasping. So we not only learn the perfections to lead ourselves, but to lead all the beings, because all the beings, they have the uh, the uh, perfection, which is the in the tradition of Zen, it is called the true mind, Genshin. Everybody has the Genshin, which does not arise and does not pass away. Now, so in order to get the true realization beyond differentiation, we have to practice the worldly wisdom, and we also have to practice the supermundane wisdom, both. Only supermundane wisdom, which leads to state of no learning, to nirvana, to the cessation of the five aggregates of clinging, is not enough. This is parami. We have to learn also the worldly wisdom. There are four kinds of worldly wisdom which are specially recommended for the bodhisattva. That is medicine. The Buddha is called the king of the medicine, of the doctors, or how you call it, of the Vaidyas. Then we have to learn the etymology languages to be able to express ourselves clearly. That is a Shen Vidya. Shen means a sound. That means languages, etymology. That's why in Sanskrit, the sage is called Kavi. Kavi means a poet. The sages, they speak in poetry. And we have to learn the poetry. The Indian philosophy, greatness of Indian philosophy is not only Buddhist, the Hindu, Jaina, it is called in poetry. So the sage is called Kavi, the poet. So we have to know the Shen, we have to know the sounds, like the King Solomon in our tradition. He could distinguish all kinds of sounds. Then we should know also the arts and profession, Vimana, how the architecture and such things. That is very difficult. I am especially stupid in that. And we should also know the science of logic, which is called in Indian philosophy Hetu Vidya, the science of causes. So the wisdom how to attain nirvana is not enough. We also have to know, when we want to practice paramis, the worldly wisdom, in order to help, be able to help others to reduce their suffering, not only our suffering. Then we also have to learn how to be skillful, how to penetrate what is true and what is not true, how to be able to benefit others, artha kriya. Then we have to know also, when we practice paramis, the heart practices, which are giving what is most dear and acquire that which is beyond the limitations, which is non-acquiring. This is a very hard practice. Then we have to know all kinds of way of practice, the practice of the disciples, the practice of the bodhisattva. We have to know the knowledge of hearing, what the Shravaka hears, because the Buddha is a teacher of the Shravakas, what the Buddhas by themselves hear, and what the bodhisattvas hear. We have to know how to reflect on it correctly, so that to realize the purity of mind, which is the aim of religious practice, and to realize it step by step by hearing properly, by contemplating properly on what one has heard, and on meditating properly, so that one is always in presence of the object of realization. For the Shravakas, for the disciples, it is a nirvana as opposed to samsara. For the bodhisattvas, it is not so easy. It is the object you cannot grasp. Because you cannot grasp, it is zero. Because all that can be grasped, we can measure. So it is not a zero. What we cannot grasp is precisely zero, is shunya, because it's ungraspable. This ungraspable means unmeasurable, unlimited. That which we can grasp is precisely what limits us. But it does not mean that we should not understand by correct differentiation, but correct differentiation only leads to non-differentiation. The correct use of language only uses to getting away from the bondage of language. The correct understanding of logic, of causes, is only to lead us to the understanding what is beyond causes. And the correct understanding of medicine is understanding precisely the perfect health. The perfect health is also bound to understanding that which is beyond decay. So for that, we need all kinds of skillful means, how to benefit oneself and benefit others equally. Then we should know all aspects of knowledge, which are explained as what is Dharma, what is the Anudharma, what is Phale, what is the worldly, what are the supernatural powers to help others, and what is the true knowledge of the images, of the phenomena, of the nimittas, how we limited, with our limited knowledge, see it. All this is included in the knowledge of the practice of the paramis, so that we can attain. Attain means go down on the Tao, and the Tao of Bodhisattvas is the bodhicitta. From the beginning to the end, the bodhicitta is the Tao, is the Dharma of the Bodhisattvas. And for this Dharma of Bodhisattvas, we need not only the inner knowledge, we also need the outer knowledge. So for that, we have to understand what limits us. Also, we have to understand the meaning, which is unlimited. And we have to understand how to use language and logic to explain this meaning to those who don't believe in this meaning. And so that we have eloquence, and we can, by our eloquence, we can subdue those who don't believe. This is all included in the practice of the paramis. So finally, the practice of the paramis is to lead us to the ultimate purity. And the ultimate purity means in this tradition of non-dualistic thinking, especially Yogacara interpretation, it means knowing everything yavad bhavikata, yatha bhavikata, knowing everything in the sense of suchness, and knowing everything in the sense of as it is. The five aggregates as they are, the eye as it is, the color as it is, and so on. So as it is in the world, and as it is in the immeasurable dimension of suchness. So this is the wonder of the practice of paramis, and let us see how it is explained. So how to practice dana? So we don't need to translate word by word. What is very important is there are three aspects of generosity. In order to practice true generosity, we have to give up distinction between benefiting oneself and benefiting others, because we understand it is not here in the text, but it is in Pragya Paramita. There is no real giver, there is no real receiver, and the giver is worthy according to conditions, the receiver is worthy according to conditions. Nothing is set. because there is no real giver, there is no real receiver, there is also no real thing you give, but yet you give, you receive, you give the appropriate give according to the understanding what is beneficial for yourself and what is beneficial for others. So in this sense, I was trained in Theravada, and I had a very, very deep faith in Theravada. Still I have. And I was thinking that the not using money is just wonderful. And I go to the jungle not using money, living with the monkeys and people offering food to me. This is nothing is better than that. But then I met some a good teacher of Zen, and he told me that not using money is very wonderful, but using money with wisdom, that is the true practice. Oh, I got like lightning. So this is the idea. You give, you practice generosity uh, with understanding how to benefit yourself and others without differentiation. This is very difficult job. The others believe in money, so so the money is not wrong, but the attachment to money is very wrong. Due to this attachment to money, I have almost lost even the table on which I am and the chair on which I am sitting. Practically everything I lost because of greed. The houses, the even the meditation hall that I was going to build, everything lost due to greed. Why? So for this reason, we have to know not only the inner knowledge, but we have to know the worldly knowledge. People are so attached to money. If we don't adopt to this kind of psychology, we naively believe that people do things just to help Buddhism and so on, then we will be very surprised. So to be surprised is not bad when one can digest it, but it is sometimes very difficult to digest. One get some tumors due to indigestion. This was my case also. So it is very difficult to digest, even if it is not your own greed, the greed of others. But we have to have the worldly knowledge, how benefit ourselves and others equally. For that, we not only need the knowledge for liberation, we also need the knowledge, understand the thinking of the worldly people and how to deal with them so as to guide them correctly, not to guide them to more greed, but to guide them to less greed. So this is very important aspect of dana. The own nature of dana is to overcome avarice. Avarice in English, yeah. Avarice is the opposite of dana. Linsu, because we have avarice, therefore we are not in a way acting according to wisdom. The wisdom is not only to get rid of avarice, but also recognize avarice, how to deal with that, and how to act correctly, not to harm yourself and not to harm others. Very wonderful philosophy, very practical. So according to the Buddhist teachings, we won't go into detail. It is explained here. There are three kinds of dana. The dana of wealth, the dana of abhaya, which means wu wei, not the, how to translate the dana uh, of not having fear, of not being fearful, to give courage to others. And the ultimate dana is the dana of the dharma. Dana of the dharma, it says even Dhammapada excels all the other danas. So because we are able to give dana, so sooner or later we will have the advantages of the dharma. If we give just wealth, we will have advantages of the dharma, but it will take a long, long time. If we give the fearlessness, we will have advantages of the dharma, but it will take a long, long time. But if we teach the dharma, and we ourselves follow the dharma, so uh, we will be able ultimately to give everything. And the Jatakas and also the Shantideva in the entering the into the practice of bodhisattvas, he says that the state of Buddha is giving everything. In order to give everything, we have to be smart. How to benefit oneself and how to benefit others. The Buddha, it is described in Vesantara Jataka. He gave everything, his wife, his children, but actually the commentaries say he also knew that by this great giving, he will get the great enlightenment. So he gave with the wisdom that if he gives, because the one who took was no one else than the Indra, the most powerful of gods, who in Indian philosophy, he can fulfill all the wishes. The Indra is very powerful. So his wish was to get the supreme enlightenment. So he, without hesitation, for the sake of sentient beings, he gave everything and attained everything. So the Jatakas explain, a very wonderful explanation. So not only in the Bodhisattva teachings, you get the wonderful ideas, even in the Jatakas themselves, which describe the practice of Bodhisattva, you have some wonderful ideas. You give, as the true giving, as the Daimon Sutra explains, is the giving by through wisdom. And the highest wisdom is non-grasping. But for non-grasping, we not only need the supermundane wisdom, we also need the worldly wisdom to lead to non-grasping the others. This is the meaning of the dana parami. So for that reason, even I was trained in the discipline of the Shravakas. Even for the Shravakas, for every good deed, you are taught to dedicate for the body, dedicate for nirvana. But the bodhisattva is supposed to dedicate for the universal body. So he has to understand also the thinking of others. And then he will be able to practice parityaga, which is said to be the state of the Buddha. The Buddha does not possess anything. So when one does not possess anything, one becomes, this is the true skillful means of becoming the Buddha. But not to possess everything does not mean here to be ignorant of everything, but use that things which make values in the world for benefiting the sentient being. So this is the true Huishyam. Not just for one's own nirvana, but for the universal nirvana. So this is the meaning of dana. So the next one is shila. The shila, we can say, is a discipline. The discipline in Sanskrit means the samvara. Samvara is the root of the practice of Shila. We have to practice the discipline. That is the root of all the vows and of all. We practice some vows, we practice some discipline in order to subdue our greed, anger, and ignorance. Without this samvara, no way. So the Buddha, it is said in Dhammapada, the Buddha most of all the virtues, most praising is samvara, discipline. When we practice giving everything, we attain the Buddhahood. When we practice samvara of everything, we attain the Buddhahood, is a Buddhahood. This is explained in the Shravaka scriptures, in the scriptures of the disciples. They explain that I, the Ayatana Samyutta, I is a great ocean. Chakhu Bhikkave Samudam. Yasa Vega Mayam Rupam. In that great ocean of the I appears the shapes in the form of the waves. One who can tolerate these waves in the great ocean of the I say that he has crossed that ocean. So Tarati Tivuchati, the one who has crossed the ocean of the I say he has crossed the ocean of suffering. Similarly, the ear, the nose, the tongue, the body, the mind is a great ocean. One who can cross the waves in the great ocean of the mind in the form of the waves of thoughts, I say he has crossed the great ocean. He is beyond suffering. So what does it mean? This Shila discipline, which is a base, correctly understood, is the liberation. Just like the correct understanding of the forbearance, of the effort, and of the Shamatha and Vipassana, they all already include liberation when understood correctly. So the discipline is a base. So for the bhikkhu, this discipline is helpful means. It does not mean it is the essence. It is a means. Is the pratimoksha. But the pratimoksha is very difficult to keep in detail. Even the wise Shariputra was not able. So nobody is able to keep absolutely pure all the precepts. Not to speak of ourselves, who are very far from the Shariputra's perfect behavior. But it is a certain the awareness for not to engage in anything harmful, which is the essence of Sila, essence of discipline. Then that is for the inner science, but for the bodhisattvas, the essence of discipline is also to gather the kushala dharmas, the dharmas which are beneficial for ourselves and others without differentiation. We need wisdom for that, and for gathering the beings. So this is very difficult to gather beings and to gather the wholesome dharmas, which enable us to stay in a natural state of purity. So the base for the discipline, no matter whether layman or the bhikkhu, are the 10 kushala karma pata, the 10 wholesome behaviors. Yeah, so we all learn the 3 belonging to the mind, 4 belonging to the speech, and the 3 belonging to the body, not killing, not stealing, not in sexual misconduct, and so on, so on. We don't need to go into the details. So finally, the base of them is sama samkapo, the right thinking, and the right thinking means non-greed, non-anger, and reduce greed, anger, and ignorance. That is the essence of all the kusala. So for that base of all the kusala and the base of for meditation, why we practice the giving and shila, because we want the base for meditation, which is described in Abhidharma Kosha as alpe ichata shao yu and santushti, what is called santushti, jizu. That means contentment and few desires. In order to practice contentment and few desires, we have to practice dana and we have to practice the discipline. Then, according to Abhidharma Kosha, we can tolerate dharma and meditate. So that much for today. We will have now meeting with Dolpo Tulku Rinpoche. who is also participating in this course organized here. So let us meet next week, huh? And please prepare some good questions so that we can have some nice discussion before continuing our exposure on the practice of perfection, of forbearance, of the virya, of the effort, or the heroic effort, and finally, the most important for us, the perfection of shamatha and vipassana. So that much for today. 愿你出功德，不计一切，我等一众生皆共成佛道。May the merits of this Dhamma spread to all beings so that we attain the perfection. Om Mitopo. So, thank you for your attention. Have a wonderful the rest of the weekend and the next wonderful week. And maybe let us wish we have a wonderful life due to the wisdom of the Buddha. See you next week. Bye-bye.
Take care. Thank you.